Imagine a man who had it all knowledge. Brilliance, a mind that could unravel the stars, yet threw it all away for a deal that would cost him everything. In the next 40 minutes, you'll uncover a story so wild, so haunting, it shaped centuries of human dreams and fears. This is the tale of Dr. Johann Faust, a scholar who dared to trade his soul for the secrets of the universe. But here's the paradox: the man who wanted to know everything ended up losing the one thing that mattered most. How could someone so brilliant make such a catastrophic choice? Stick with me, because in just the first few minutes, you'll discover a truth that 90% of people never consider. What you're willing to sacrifice might define you more than what you gain. It's the dead of night in 16th century Germany, sometime around 1520. The world outside is cloaked in an eerie, holy silence. The cobblestone streets of a small German town lie still bathed in moonlight as the good townsfolk sleep soundly, their dreams guarded by the rigid doctrines of the church. But in a cramped, shadowy study tucked away in a creaking wooden house, a storm is brewing. The air is thick with the musty scent of old parchment, melted wax, and something faintly metallic, perhaps the tang of forbidden ambition. This is no ordinary room. It's a battlefield of the mind, where one man stands on the edge of eternity, about to commit an act so audacious, so blasphemous, it will echo through the centuries. His name is Dr. Johann Faust, a scholar, a genius, a man who has devoured every book, mastered every discipline, philosophy, law, medicine, theology, and found them all wanting. Picture him now, a figure hunched over a cluttered desk, his eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights, his fingers stained with ink and candle soot. Around him, shelves groan under the weight of dusty tomes. Aristotle, Plato, the Holy Scriptures, all of them monuments to human knowledge, and all of them to Faust, nothing more than hollow promises. He's read them all, debated the greatest minds of his age, and what has it brought him? A soul-crushing despair, a gnawing emptiness that whispers, "This is all there is." The limits of human understanding feel like a cage, and Faust is a man who refuses to be caged. In a fit of cosmic rage, he sweeps his arm across the desk. Books crash to the floor, their pages fluttering like wounded birds. The Bible lands with a thud, its sacred words ignored. Faust's heart races, his breath shallow. He's done with God's answers, or lack thereof. If heaven won't reveal the secrets of the universe, he'll turn to hell instead. He kneels on the cold stone floor, his trembling hands tracing a circle in chalk, etched with strange, forbidden symbols, runes and sigils whispered about in the darkest corners of alchemical lore. The air grows heavy, the candle flames flicker as if afraid. Faust mutters incantations, his voice low and defiant, each word a step closer to the abyss. And then with a final blasphemous curse, he calls out to the powers below. What would you do if you stood at the edge of everything you've ever known, staring into the void? Would you turn back, or would you leap for Dr. Faust? This is the moment that will define him, a moment of rebellion, of desperation, of a hunger so fierce it could burn the world. This is the story of a man who dared to demand answers from the universe no matter the cost. A story of ambition so vast it could only end in ruin or redemption. Let's pause for a second. Where are you watching this from? Drop a comment below, your city, your country. It's wild to think we're connecting across the globe to unravel this tale of a man who stood at the crossroads of heaven and hell. For my American friends, think about this. We live in an age of endless information. Google, AI, the internet at our fingertips. Ever feel like it's still not enough? Like Faust, we've all had moments where we've stared at our own limits and wondered, what's next? What would I give to know more, to be more? If this story of ambition and defiance speaks to you, hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started, and trust me, the shadows of history have plenty more secrets to share. But before we dive into the heart of Faust's tale, let's set the stage. This isn't just a story about one man's pact with the devil. It's a mirror held up to our own desires, our own fears. Faust's study, with its flickering candles and forbidden books, could be your late-night desk, littered with coffee cups and laptop screens, as you chase a dream that feels just out of reach. His rebellion was born in a time of upheaval, when old certainties were crumbling and new possibilities were terrifyingly infinite. Sound familiar? In a world of AI, space exploration, and endless ambition, are we all in some way standing in Faust's shoes? All right, let's take a quick breath. before we plunge deeper into the shadows of Dr. Faust's story. Right now you're sitting somewhere, maybe a cozy coffee shop in Seattle, a bustling subway in New York, or a quiet living room in a small Midwest town. Maybe you're halfway across the globe in a city I've never heard of. Wherever you are, I want to know, drop a comment below and tell me your city or country. It's mind-blowing to think that we're all connected from every corner of the world by this wild, timeless tale of a man who dared to chase the impossible. What is it about stories like Faust's stories of ambition, rebellion, and the search for more that pulls us in no matter where we're from? Let's make this personal. Think about a moment in your life when you felt that burning desire to break through your own limits. Maybe it was staying up all night to finish a project, chasing a dream job, or even just scrolling through your phone, searching for answers to questions you can't quite name. Here in America, we're no strangers to that kind of hunger. It's the same drive that built Silicon Valley sent astronauts to the moon and fuels those viral TikTok challenges that make us laugh and cringe. But sometimes that hunger can lead us to places we didn't expect. Ever heard of Robert Johnson, the legendary blues musician? They say he went to a Mississippi crossroads at midnight and sold his soul to the devil for unmatched guitar skills. Sounds like a tall tale, right? But that story, born right here in the US, echoes the same question Faust faced. What would you give up to get everything you've ever wanted? So here's my challenge for you in the comments. Share not just where you're watching from, but also one thing you've always wanted to achieve, something that feels just out of reach. Is it mastering a skill, chasing a dream, or unlocking some big mystery in your life? No judgment here. We're all dreamers in our own way. And if this journey into history's darkest corners is sparking something in you, hit that subscribe button. Join our community of curious minds as we unravel more stories that make you question, wonder, and maybe even shiver a little. Why does Faust's story matter to us today? Because it's not just about a guy in a dusty old study making a bad deal. It's about the human spirit, our endless need to push boundaries, to know more, to be more. Whether you're in Chicago, Tokyo, or a tiny village somewhere, that drive is universal. But here's the kicker: sometimes that drive can blind us. In the US, we celebrate the hustle, work hard, dream big, make it happen. But what happens when the cost of that dream is higher than we realize? Faust's story is a warning, a mirror, and maybe even a little bit of inspiration. So stick with me. We're about to step into a world where the line between genius and madness is razor thin, and trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next. Imagine a world where the church is the ultimate authority, where every question about life, death, and the cosmos has one answer: God's will. That's the medieval world of the early 1500s, a time when faith was the foundation of everything. Law, science, even your daily bread. But now picture that world cracking open. New ideas are creeping in like sunlight through a shattered stained glass window. This is the Renaissance, a seismic shift that's shaking the foundations of Europe. And nowhere is the tremor felt more than in Germany, where a man like Dr. Faust will soon make his fateful choice. To understand the storm that forged Faust's rebellion, we need to step back and see the epic clash between two worlds: the rigid, God-fearing medieval age and the bold, curious dawn of the Renaissance. In the medieval world, life was a script written by the church. The Bible and the Pope dictated truth, and questioning either was a one-way ticket to the stake. Knowledge was a walled garden, beautiful but tightly controlled. Universities taught Aristotle through a religious lens. Doctors bled patients to balance their humors, and the heavens were a divine mystery with earth at the center of God's perfect plan. But by the early 1500s, that script was unraveling. The Renaissance was a cultural earthquake driven by a new idea: humanism. Suddenly, people started to believe that humans, not just God, could unlock the secrets of the universe. Thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci were dissecting human bodies to understand anatomy-defying church bans. Astronomers like Copernicus were daring to say the Earth wasn't the center of the cosmos. And explorers like Columbus were sailing into the unknown, proving the world was bigger than any holy text had ever suggested. Germany in the 1520s was ground zero for this upheaval. It wasn't just about art or science, it was a spiritual revolution too. Enter Martin Luther, a German monk, who in 1517 nailed his 95 Theses to a church door in Wittenberg, sparking the Protestant Reformation. Luther challenged the Catholic Church's iron grip, arguing that faith, not priests, held the key to salvation. His ideas spread like wildfire thanks to a new invention, the printing press. For the first time, books and pamphlets flooded Europe, letting ordinary people read, think, and question for themselves. But this freedom came with fear. The church saw these new ideas as heresy, a direct threat to God's order. Scientists, scholars, and dreamers were walking a tightrope. One misstep could mean exile, imprisonment, or worse. This was the crucible that shaped men like Faust. The Renaissance promised limitless possibilities, knowledge, power, discovery, but the medieval world still loomed large, whispering warnings of eternal damnation. Imagine the tension: a scholar in a German town surrounded by books that hint at new truths, but haunted by the church's threat of hellfire. It's no coincidence that Germany, caught in this tug-of-war, became the birthplace of Faust's legend. The clash between reason and faith, between human ambition and divine law, was a powder keg waiting to explode. For my American friends, this might feel oddly familiar. Think about the founding of the United States, a nation born from the Enlightenment, a direct descendant of the Renaissance. The founding fathers like Jefferson or Franklin were driven by reason, science, and a belief in human potential, much like the Renaissance thinkers. But they also faced resistance from those who clung to tradition, just as the church fought Luther's reforms. Today we see similar tensions, debates over science versus belief, progress versus caution, play out in everything from climate change to AI ethics. The Renaissance wasn't just a moment in history, it's a mindset we're still grappling with. So what does this mean for Faust? He's not just a man, he's a symbol of this chaotic, thrilling, terrifying time. He's the scholar who reads forbidden books, the dreamer who wants to rewrite the stars, but also the sinner who fears God's wrath. His story is a story of an age that dared to ask, what if there are no limits, and then trembled at the answer. As we move forward, we'll meet the real Faust, the man behind the myth, and see how this turbulent world pushed him to the edge of the abyss. Who was the real Dr. Faust? Not the myth, not the legend, but the flesh and blood man who wandered the cobblestone streets of 16th century Germany, leaving whispers of awe and fear in his wake. His name was Johann Georg Faust, a figure so enigmatic that even today historians can't quite pin him down. Was he a brilliant scholar, a cunning charlatan, or something darker, someone who danced too close to the edge of the forbidden? To understand the spark that ignited the Faust legend, we need to meet this man whose life and death became the kindling for one of history's most enduring tales. Johann Georg Faust was born around 1480, likely in a small German town like Nittlingen. He was no ordinary man. Records from the time show he earned degrees from prestigious universities, mastering theology, philosophy, and perhaps even the emerging sciences of the day. He was a polymath, a Renaissance man before the term existed, fluent in Latin, versed in ancient texts, and hungry for knowledge. But Faust wasn't content to sit in dusty lecture halls. He was a wanderer, a self-styled magician, alchemist, and astrologer, traveling from town to town, dazzling crowds with predictions and parlor tricks. Think of him as part scholar, part showman, a 16th century rock star with a penchant for the occult. His reputation was a paradox. To some, he was a genius. He boasted he could restore the lost works of Plato and Aristotle from memory, or even replicate the miracles of Christ. Bold claims, to say the least. But to others, he was a fraud, a con man peddling horoscopes and alchemical promises to gullible nobles. The church branded him a blasphemer, whispering that his powers came not from study, but from a pact with darker forces. Respected scholars, like those at the University of Erfurt, dismissed him as a braggart. Yet to the common folk, bakers, farmers, innkeepers, Faust was a figure of awe, a man who seemed to wield secrets beyond mortal reach. In a tavern in Leipzig, he reportedly predicted the outcome of a nobleman's duel with eerie accuracy. In another town, he was said to have conjured a storm to scare off a rival. Truth or tall tales. That's the thing about Faust, the line between fact and fiction was always blurry. His end was as mysterious as his life. Around 1541, in the town of Staufen, Faust met a gruesome fate. According to contemporary accounts, his body was found in a rented room, mangled and twisted, as if some violent force had torn him apart. One chronicler wrote that his neck was snapped, his limbs contorted in ways no human body should bend. Whispers spread that his demonic servant had come to collect its due. Was it murder? An alchemical experiment gone wrong? Or something supernatural? No one knows for sure, But the horror of his death fueled the rumors, turning Johann Georg Faust into the seed of a legend that would grow far beyond his mortal life. For my American friends, think of Faust as a figure like P.T. Barnum, the 19th century showman who captivated audiences with spectacle and controversy. Barnum was called a genius and a fraud, a man who blurred the line between truth and performance, much like Faust. But where Barnum sold wonder, Faust sold mystery, and his audience paid with fear as much as fascination. In a way, Faust's story feels like an early version of the American dream gone wrong, a man chasing greatness only to crash against the limits of his world. What makes Faust so compelling is how his contradictions mirror our own. He was a scholar who craved truth, yet a performer who thrived on deception. He was a man of his time, yet ahead of it, caught in a world that both revered and reviled his ambition. His life raises a question we still wrestle with today. Where's the line between genius and madness, between seeking knowledge and defying the natural order? As we step closer to the legend that grew from this man's shadow, we'll see how his story was spun into a cautionary tale that's haunted the world for centuries. The air in the study grows colder, heavier, as if the world itself is holding its breath. Dr. Johann Faust stands within a chalk-drawn circle, its edges jagged with arcane symbols, each line a defiance of heaven. The candles flicker wildly now, casting shadows that twist like living things. He's done the unthinkable, spoken the forbidden words, chanted the incantations, banned by every church in Christendom. And then it happens. A shadow detaches from the wall, smooth and deliberate, taking the form of a man, not a horned beast, but a suave, sharp-eyed figure, dressed in black velvet, his smile as sharp as a blade. This is Mephistopheles, servant of Lucifer, and he's here to make a deal. This is the moment where Faust crosses a line no mortal should, trading his soul for a taste of the infinite. But at what cost? Mephistopheles is no ordinary demon. He's not fire and brimstone. He's logic and charm, a deal-maker who knows the human heart better than any priest. Faust, burning with ambition, lays out his terms: 24 years of limitless power, knowledge, and pleasure. He wants to unravel the secrets of the cosmos, to command kings to live every desire a man could dream. In return, when those 24 years are up, his soul belongs to hell. Mephistopheles, ever the cynic, tries to warn him. In a chilling moment from Christopher Marlowe's play, he tells Faust that hell is no mere fable. It's a torment that follows him even now, an eternal absence of divine light. But Faust, drunk on his own intellect, laughs it off. Hell, a story for children. He's a man of reason, a scholar who measures truth with logic, not fear. To seal the pact, it must be signed in blood, a symbol of Faust's very life. He takes a dagger, its blade glinting in the candlelight, and cuts his arm. But the blood refuses to flow, congealing, as if his body itself rebels against this act of self-destruction. Mephistopheles, unfazed, brings a glowing coal to warm the wound, and the blood runs red again. As Faust signs his name, a warning appears on his arm in searing letters: Homo fugae, Latin for man flee. It's a desperate cry from the heavens, a last chance to turn back. But Faust's pride is a fortress. He ignores the sign, scoffs at the omen, and hands the contract to the demon. The deal is done. The clock begins to tick. What does this moment mean? The circle on the floor isn't just chalk. It's a boundary between the mortal and the divine, a line Faust chooses to cross. The blood refusing to flow is his body's plea for salvation, silenced by his arrogance, and homo fuga. It's the universe itself screaming a truth he refuses to hear. This isn't just a story about a man and a demon. It's about the moment ambition becomes obsession, when the quest for knowledge blinds us to consequences. For my American friends, think about the tech moguls of today, visionaries like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg, chasing dreams of AI and virtual worlds. Their ambition drives progress, but what happens when they push too far, ignoring warnings about privacy, ethics, or human cost? Faust's pact feels eerily modern, a reminder that the pursuit of more always comes with a price. This deal sets Faust on a path no one could predict, not even him. He thinks he's won the ultimate prize, but has he? As we'll see, the power he gains will test the limits of his soul, revealing truths he never wanted to face. For now the ink is dry, the demon smiles, and Faust steps into the unknown, believing he's the master of his fate. With the ink dry on his blood-signed pact, Dr. Johann Faust steps into a world where the impossible is his to command. For 24 years, Mephistopheles, the suave demon in black velvet, is his servant, granting every wish, no matter how grand or fleeting. Faust wanted to unravel the mysteries of the cosmos, to wield power over kings, to taste every pleasure life could offer. And for a moment it seems he's won it all. He soars through time and space, conjures wonders that leave Europe's courts speechless, and lives a life no mortal could dream of. But as the years unfold, something becomes clear. The man who sought to conquer the universe is squandering his infinite power on petty tricks and hollow thrills. This is the story of how Faust's boundless ambition curdles into something far less noble. Picture Faust in his prime, riding a chariot drawn by dragons, the wind whipping through his cloak as he travels across continents in a single night. He visits the glittering courts of Renaissance Europe, where kings and nobles hang on his every word. At the court of the Holy Roman Emperor Charles V, Faust performs a feat that defies belief. He summons the spirit of Alexander the Great, complete with a mole on his neck, just as ancient texts described. The crowd gasps, awestruck, as history itself seems to bend to his will. In Rome, he slips into the Pope's banquet hall invisible and plays pranks, snatching plates from under the pontiff's nose, whispering taunts that echo in the grand halls. These are the acts of a man drunk on power, a scholar turned showman, dazzling the world with his newfound might. But as the years pass, the grandeur fades. Faust's ambitions shrink, his vision narrows. The man who once dreamed of unlocking the secrets of the stars now uses his demonic servant for cheap stunts. In a German tavern, he conjures antlers onto a skeptical knight's head, laughing as the man flees in shame. He sells a horse to a cheating merchant, only for it to dissolve into a bale of hay when it touches water. These are not the deeds of a cosmic conqueror, they're the tricks of a court jester. What happened? Faust's power is infinite, but his imagination is not. The more he indulges, the less he dreams, trading the pursuit of eternal truths for fleeting laughs and petty revenge. The most heartbreaking moment comes near the end of his 24 years, when Faust, weary and disillusioned, makes one final request. He asks Mephistopheles to summon Helen of Troy, the mythical beauty whose face launched 1,000 ships. The demon obliges, and she appears a vision of perfection, silent and ethereal, her eyes like stars in a forgotten sky. Faust, gazing at her, speaks words that capture the tragedy of his journey, drawn from Christopher Marlowe's play. Was this the face that launched 1,000 ships and burnt the topless towers of Ilium? Sweet Helen, make me immortal with a kiss. He leans in, desperate for meaning, for transcendence. But her lips are cold, her form a mere shadow. He's kissing a ghost, a hollow echo of his own faded dreams. This moment isn't triumph, it's defeat, a stark reminder that all his power has brought him no closer to the truths he sought. For my American friends, Faust's fall feels like a warning we know all too well. Think of the influencers who chase fame on Instagram or TikTok, starting with big dreams, creating art-inspiring change, only to end up chasing likes with silly pranks or viral stunts. Or consider the tech startups that promise to revolutionize the world, but get lost in chasing quick profits or fleeting trends. Faust's 24 years are a mirror to our own world, where ambition can start with glory, but end in banality if we lose sight of what truly matters. His story asks us, what do we do with the power we're given? Do we build something lasting, or do we waste it on things that turn to dust? As Faust's time runs out, the weight of his choices begins to press down. The wonders he's conjured, the pleasures he's chased, they're starting to feel like ashes in his mouth. What happens when a man who sold his soul for everything realizes he's gained nothing? That's where we're headed next, as Faust faces the shadows of his own heart. Dr. Johann Faust has tasted power beyond mortal dreams, chariots drawn by dragons, courts bending to his will, even the ghostly beauty of Helen of Troy. But beneath the dazzle of his 24-year reign, a storm rages within him. Every step he takes, every trick he plays is haunted by a question he can't escape. Was it worth it? Faust, the man who scoffed at hell, now feels its shadow creeping closer. His soul is a battlefield torn between two voices, one whispering hope, the other hissing despair. This is the heart of Faust's story, a war between good and evil, fought not with swords or fire, but in the quiet, torturous chambers of his own mind. Throughout his 24 years, two spectral figures dog Faust's steps like angels perched on his shoulders. The good angel, radiant and pleading, urges him to repent, to turn back to the light of divine mercy. Its voice is soft but persistent, promising forgiveness if only he'd lay down his pride. The bad angel, cold and cunning, counters with a darker truth. His sins are too great, his pact unbreakable, his soul already lost. These aren't just metaphors. They're the embodiment of Faust's inner turmoil, a man caught between the scholar who sought truth and the sinner who betrayed it. At every turn, he teeters on the edge of redemption, only to be pulled back by doubt, fear, or the seductive pull of his demonic servant, Mephistopheles. One moment crystallizes this struggle. In a quiet pause, far from the spectacle of courts and conjured spirits, Faust turns to Mephistopheles with a simple, searing question. Who made the world? It's not a casual query. It's a desperate plea for meaning, for the one truth that could anchor his unraveling soul. But Mephistopheles, a creature of hell, cannot utter the name of God. His silence is deafening, a void that echoes with the limits of Faust's bargain. He's gained knowledge of the stars, the seas, the secrets of kings, but the ultimate truth, the divine spark that binds the universe, remains beyond his grasp. In that moment, Faust sees the cage he's built for himself, a mind full of facts, but a soul starved of purpose. This clash isn't just Faust's, it's ours. For my American friends, think about those moments when you faced your own crossroads. Maybe it's the choice between chasing a high-flying career at the cost of family or pushing the boundaries of innovation while ignoring ethical red flags. Think of films like The Matrix, where Neo wrestles with the truth of his reality, or Oppenheimer, where a scientist grapples with the moral weight of his creation. Faust's battle is universal, the pull between what we want and what we know is right. His tragedy is his refusal to choose his belief that intellect alone can outwit fate. It's what psychologists might call cognitive dissonance, holding two opposing truths and being torn apart by them. Faust's inner war is a mirror to our own struggles with ambition and morality. Every time he reaches for redemption, Mephistopheles is there dangling a new distraction or whispering that it's too late. The good angel's voice grows fainter, drowned out by the weight of his choices. What happens when a man realizes his pursuit of power has left him empty, but feels too far gone to turn back? That's the question we'll face next as Faust's final hours approach and the cost of his pact comes due. The clock is ticking down. 24 years have slipped through Dr. Johann Faust's fingers like sand, and now in the dead of night, he faces his final hour. The study where he once defied heaven is now a tomb, its walls closing in. The candles burn low, their flames trembling, as if they sense what's coming. Faust, once so bold, so certain he could outwit fate, is a broken man. His hands shake, his eyes dart to the shadows, and his heart pounds with a terror he can no longer deny. Hell, the fable he laughed at, is real, and its jaws are opening wide. This is the climax of Faust's story, a night of desperate pleas, shattering revelations, and a horrifying end that will haunt history forever. Faust gathers his students, young scholars, who once idolized him, for a final farewell. His voice cracks as he confesses the truth, the pact, the power, the price. He begs them to pray for him, though he believes himself beyond salvation. They're horrified, offering to stay to face the darkness with him, but Faust sends them away. This is his burden, his alone. As the clock nears 11, he's left in the study, the silence broken only by the ticking of time. What follows is one of the most gut-wrenching soliloquies in literature, drawn from Christopher Marlowe's play. Faust's words spill out in a frantic, rambling torrent. "Oh, let the sun rise again and drive away this damn night. Stand still, you ever-moving spheres of heaven, that time may cease." He pleads with the universe to stop, to give him one more day, one more chance. He offers to burn his books, the very knowledge that damned him, if only God will spare his soul. But the heavens are silent. Faust's desperation turns to anguish. He curses his parents for giving him life, wishes he were a beast without a soul, so death could simply erase him. He looks to the stars, begging them to draw him up like mist, to dissolve his body and soul into nothingness. In a final heart-stopping moment, he sees the blood of Christ streaming in the sky, a vision of redemption just out of reach. "One drop would save my soul," he cries, but he cannot grasp it. His pride, his pact, his choices have built a wall between him and grace. As the clock strikes midnight, the room erupts in chaos. Thunder roars, the air chokes with sulfur, and the voices of demons echo snarling for their prize. Faust's final scream pierces the night Mephistopheles as the doors of the study are torn open. The next morning, his students creep back, their faces pale with dread. The room is a slaughterhouse. Blood smears the walls, brains cling to the ceiling, and eye lies discarded on the floor. Teeth are scattered like grim confetti. Outside on a dung heap, they find Faust's body, or what's left of it. His neck is snapped, his limbs twisted into grotesque angles, his form barely human. The man who sought to be a god has been reduced to a broken husk, a warning carved in flesh and bone. For my American friends, this scene hits like a horror movie's final act. Think The Exorcist or Hereditary, where the buildup of dread explodes into terror. But it's more than shock value. Faust's final night is a mirror to our own fears of failure, of facing the consequences of our choices. In a culture that celebrates go big or go home, what happens when we go too far? Think of the Wall Street traders who bet everything on a risky deal only to lose it all, or the tech pioneers who push boundaries until they crash. Faust's soliloquy is our own voice in those dark moments when we realize the cost of our ambitions might be more than we can bear. This night marks the end of Faust's journey, but not the end of his story. What does his fall mean for the world he left behind? That's where we're headed next as we unravel the legacy of a man who dared to challenge the heavens. The screams have faded, the study lies in ruins, and Dr. Johann Faust is gone, his body a mangled testament to a deal gone wrong. But his story doesn't end there. From the ashes of his tragedy rises a legend that has haunted, inspired, and reshaped Western culture for centuries. What began as a grim warning from the church became something far greater, a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest desires and darkest fears. The tale of Faust, born in the turmoil of 16th century Germany, has been told and retold, twisted and transformed, until it became a symbol of the eternal human struggle to reach beyond our grasp. Let's unravel the legacy of Faust and see how a cautionary tale turned into a timeless icon. In its earliest days, the Faust story was a weapon. The church, shaken by the Renaissance and the Protestant Reformation, used it to terrify the faithful back into line. Pamphlets called Faust books, churned out on new printing presses, painted Faust as a sinner, damned for his hubris, a warning to anyone daring to prioritize human knowledge over divine faith. In 1587, the first full biography, The History of Dr. Johann Faustus, cemented this message: defy God and you'll pay with your soul. But the church miscalculated. Instead of scaring people, Faust's story captivated them. His defiance, his hunger for more struck a chord. He wasn't just a villain, he was a tragic hero, a man who dared to dream bigger than the world allowed. Enter Christopher Marlowe, the fiery English playwright who in the late 1580s turned Faust into a stage sensation with his play Dr. Faustus. Marlowe's Faust is a tortured genius, a Renaissance man whose insatiable curiosity leads to his doom. His final cry, "Ah, Mephistopheles," is a gut punch, a reminder that ambition can be both glorious and fatal. Marlowe's version, dark and unrelenting, spoke to an audience wrestling with the same questions. How far can we push before we break? 2 centuries later, Johann Wolfgang von Goethe reimagined the story in his epic Faust. Goethe's Faust isn't damned, he's redeemed. After a life of striving, sinning, and even causing tragedy, like the ruin of an innocent girl named Gretchen, angels carry him to heaven, proclaiming that those who never stop seeking can find salvation. Goethe's vision reflects a new era, one that celebrated progress and human potential over fear of divine wrath. This shift from warning to inspiration made Faust a cultural touchstone. His story echoed beyond dusty books, finding new life in music, art, and film. Charles Gounod's opera Faust brought the tale to 19th century stages, its soaring arias capturing the heartbreak of ambition. F.W. Murnau's 1926 silent film Faust painted his pact in haunting shadows, a visual feast that thrilled early moviegoers. For my American friends, think of how Faust's DNA runs through pop culture. Marvel's Doctor Strange, a sorcerer seeking forbidden knowledge, owes a debt to Faust. So does The Devil's Advocate, where Al Pacino's devilish lawyer tempts Keanu Reeves with power and pleasure. Even Breaking Bad's Walter White trading morality for control feels like a modern Faust cooking blue candy instead of summoning demons. Why does Faust endure? Because he's us. His story is a battle between the drive to achieve and the fear of losing ourselves. In America, where we celebrate risk-takers and innovators, Faust's legacy is especially potent. He's the entrepreneur who bets everything on a startup, the scientist who pushes ethical boundaries, the artist who sacrifices stability for a shot at greatness. The church wanted his story to scare us into submission, but instead it became a rallying cry for those who dare to dream, even if it means risking everything. As we move to the final chapter, we'll ask, what does Faust's legacy mean for us today? In a world of AI, space exploration, and endless ambition, are we all walking in his footsteps? The tale of Dr. Johann Faust has carried us through centuries, from a shadowed study in 16th century Germany to the bright screens of our modern world. His story, born in a time of upheaval, isn't just a dusty legend. It's a living question, as urgent now as it was then. Are we, in our relentless pursuit of knowledge, power, and progress, walking the same treacherous path as Faust? In an age of artificial intelligence, gene editing, and voyages to Mars, his shadow looms large, urging us to pause and ask, what's the cost of our ambitions? And how do we balance the hunger to know more with the wisdom to know when to stop? Look around us in 2025. We're building AI that can think faster than any human mind, tools like those from XAI, pushing the boundaries of what machines can do. But with every leap forward, there's a whisper of caution. What happens when AI outpaces our ability to control it? Are we signing our own pact with forces we don't fully understand? Or consider gene editing. CRISPR technology lets us rewrite the code of life itself, promising cures for diseases, but also raising fears of designer babies or unintended consequences. Then there's the space race, with pioneers like SpaceX aiming to colonize Mars. It's thrilling, but what do we sacrifice: resources, ethics, or even our humanity to reach the stars? Faust's story isn't just about a man and a demon. It's about us standing at the edge of the unknown, tempted to leap without looking. For my American friends, this hits close to home. The US thrives on a culture of innovation. Think Silicon Valley, NASA, the dreamers who turn ideas into reality. But we've seen the flip side: tech scandals that erode trust, environmental costs of unchecked progress, or the burnout of chasing more without asking why. Faust's tragedy is a warning: ambition without responsibility can lead to ruin. Yet his story also inspires. Unlike Faust, we have a choice to pursue progress with purpose, to temper our hunger with humility. His fall teaches us that the greatest power isn't in knowing everything, but in knowing what's worth knowing. So here's my challenge to you. What's your Faustian bargain? What are you chasing: fame, success, truth? And what are you willing to give up for it? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. Are we all in some way flirting with our own Mephistopheles? And if you've been gripped by this journey through history, hit that subscribe button. There are more stories out there waiting to challenge how we see ourselves and our world. Faust's legacy isn't just a cautionary tale. It's a call to action. Dream big, push boundaries, but never forget the human cost. In a world where we can build gods or destroy ourselves, let's choose to write a story that ends not in screams, but in hope.